All right, what is going on, guys? So in today's episode, we've got Manny on the call. I'm super excited for this one. Manny is another Catholic influencer, and I wanted to basically just reach out to him and kind of hear his story. He makes some great content. It always gives me a laugh too, and so I just wanted to reach out and see kind of what his story is and how he uses kind of like humor and content to share the faith. So, Manny, I'm super excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
So what we can do is I kind of want to just start with kind of like your story and how you got into maybe how you got into the faith, because I would say you're a pretty serious Catholic, and
mm,
how were you always like that, and kind of what made you want to start making content?
yeah, so I'm actually a convert to the faith. I converted to Catholicism when I was in seventh grade from Hinduism.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, tell me a bit about that.
so I went to Catholic school, and I always just wondered if my teachers were correct in telling me that there's only one God, or if my parents were correct in telling me that there's just many different gods. Um, so I prayed about it and I just did my own research and I found that the fullness of truth is the Catholic Church because I was just seeking the truth.
What did your that's awesome, but what did your parents think of that?
They were understanding. Yeah, I'm really lucky because I know a lot of stories from other people that converted from a family that was not that accepting.
Yeah, I bet. Funny enough,
Hmm.
I one of my the guy I sponsored into the church 2 years ago, he was from India and was Hindu. His family was Hindu, and he was part
Mm.
of, I don't know the names of the orders. You know how there used to be like a caste system, and there was like the
Yeah.
high, or he was
Hmm.
from like the highest order, and his parents wanted him to be like a Hindu like priest. Anyway, he
Mm.
found Catholicism and then converted, and his whole family was like, "You're no son of mine." And so
Oh wow.
became Catholic, and but I was honored to sponsor him. But yeah, I can imagine like not probably the easiest situation for you.
Yeah. But it is kind of encouraging, just reading the lives of a lot of the saints, especially the martyrs, because I'm like, if they were able to go through all that suffering, I can go through just a little bit.
Yeah, I think about that a
Mhm.
lot, where I'm like, I don't want to get judged on Instagram, and it's like, man, most of the apostles got murdered, so I'll be
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Well, cool. Okay, so you became Catholic seventh grade, and then
Hmm.
like went to high school, presumably Catholic high school.
I went to public high school, and it was actually in public high school that I started to fall out of practicing the faith,
Okay.
just because no one in my life was Catholic. So it was really hard to have anyone to look up to as an example. So I stopped going to mass. I still prayed every once in a while,
Hmm.
um, but I fell into a really like dark, depressive moment, and I turned back to God because I was just so helpless, and I just wanted answers. Um, and I found answers through the rosary, specifically.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah,
Like praying it over and over, and it kind of helped you out.
yeah. I started committing to a practice of praying 20 decades every day,
Wow. Good for
and I
you, man.
can't explain it, but ever since I started doing that, I just started going to mass more, going to adoration, and I've just been on fire since then.
That's really cool. Man, so that's like, because 5 decades takes like, 15 minutes maybe. So you were
Yeah.
doing 20, so you were doing an hour of a rosary a day, probably.
Yeah. Now I would split it up throughout the day. So it was like four mini rosaries.
Okay. But for
Mhm.
us, that's four for a simpleton like me, that's four normal rosaries.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think certain you know how certain religious have they wear a larger rosary. Have
Yep.
you ever seen that? And I think that I don't know how many decades that is, but I think it's either 10 or 20. Do you know?
It's 15 usually.
15. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're right up there with them. You're doing more than them. That's cool. So are you still doing that, or is that something you kind of just went through to get back into the faith?
I still do that.
Very cool, man. Good for
Mhm.
you. Okay, so yeah, tell me a bit about like your current faith. Like, okay, so I kind of want to stick with the timeline here. So you got back into the faith. That sounds like high school or end of high school?
End of high school.
Okay, so we're more into the faith, we're praying the rosary, going back to mass, and then you went off to college?
Yeah. So, one other thing that happened at the end of high school was I low key lost a lot of my friends from high school when I came back to the faith
Sure.
because they were not accepting of some of the views that I just took more seriously, even though I wasn't necessarily that vocal about it, especially when it came to things like abortion. Um, and yeah, they just weren't okay with me believing in that. And I was like, this is not a good situation. I just have to separate myself.
Yeah, so even if you weren't super vocal, they stopped like they started judging you.
Yeah. So I prayed to God and I was like,
Sure.
please give me Catholic friends because I just really want to have community. And I found that in college because my college has a really good Catholic Newman's Club.
Like your Newman Center's pretty good.
Yeah. Hmm.
Nice. Okay, so by the time you went to college, you were pretty on fire for the faith. And then, yeah, presumably you're doing that stuff, like you're doing the Newman Center stuff, you're doing this young adult like masses and stuff. Would
Hmm.
you say that was right around when you started to make content?
I started at the end of high school, but I took it much more seriously in college.
Okay. So what was the goal with that? Like, I don't know. I'm not sure if I follow you on YouTube or TikTok, but I see you on Instagram. Is that kind of your main platform?
That is, I'm about to I have a YouTube channel up, but I'm about to start making more videos.
Nice. Okay. Very
Yeah.
cool. So
I
yeah,
also have a TikTok, but I'm not doing that well on TikTok, low key.
same. It's funny. Okay. So like, what was the goal of starting to make the content?
Honestly, at first it was for fun. Um, but as I started to make more memes, I started to realize that I actually can turn this into something greater. I started to realize that there's not a lot of Catholic voices on social media, especially like when I was in high school. And I just feel like a lot of Catholics choose to distance themselves from social media completely. And I feel like for some people that can be good because a lot of people struggle with sloth and jealousy. Um, but I think we need Catholicism in the public square. And today, people have their voices heard on social media. Um, if St. Peter and Paul were alive today, they would be all over Instagram.
I totally agree, man. And
Hmm.
the a lot of people don't go on social media because they're scared of being judged for their content. I think that's a big reason.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I think it's easier to say something like, well, I don't know how virtuous it is for me to obsess over social media. I think that's easier to say than to say, yeah, if I ever posted a reel about my beliefs, like I'm scared of what people would say, which I think is the real truth.
Yeah, you do get a lot of hate on social
Tons.
media. It's kind of
Right.
crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, especially if you're hitting on something that's sensitive right now in the culture, like
Hmm.
abortion, gay marriage, anything like that, you're gonna get a ton of hate. Even if you don't, though, you'll get a lot. Like I touch on, I mean, I'm sure you've seen my content. I do like fitness or like
Hmm.
social skills stuff. I like life coaching stuff. And so even with that, you'll get a lot of hate. And I'm sure you just make memes and you get a lot of hate.
Yeah. Um, you post some things that are even kind of controversial to some Catholics. Well, I mean, I agree with a lot of thing points you make, but yeah, even within our own faith, people are just so aggressive, like in the comment section.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know this, but I consult with like priests about my content because you know this. There's like an element of attention grabbing you have to do with the hook.
Mm. Hmm.
And then there's like a point I want to drive home. But if you just say something not kind of exciting for my type of content, like
Hmm.
pray to Mary or something, like it's not going to pop off, so to speak. And then if I don't pop off, I don't reach as many Catholics. So I try to blend like a hook that invokes emotion with like a important concept I want to convey. But with all that, we have to make sure we stay on like the board of Catholicism because I don't want to fall off of the
Hmm.
board. So all
Yeah.
of that I try to bring to like some of the priests that I consult with just to make sure like, yeah, we're on board. But it's a game, it's an art, and not everyone's willing to do it.
Yeah, it is a really difficult thing to do. I always pray before and after I make each post. And it
Like that.
just kind of helps me keep in mind if I'm posting something that God is okay with.
Totally.
Hmm.
Do you ever find yourself when you're posting something asking yourself like, do I believe this? Like, is this me? And then and then that's kind of like another filter. So you can, I like the praying. You can also, what I do is I'll look at it and be like, is this really something I believe and want to post? And it's not just
Hmm.
like a trend I saw on Instagram and I want to post it for money or for views. It's like, do I really believe this? I think Catholic influencers need to make sure they do that.
Yeah, when it comes to trends, I try not to make a post because of a trend. I try to keep ideas in mind so that whenever a trend comes up, I just use it to bring exposure to whatever idea I had in mind.
Right. I like that. Because if you
Mhm.
ride a trend, it will get more views, and we want to reach as many Catholics as possible.
Hmm.
Yeah. Cool. So
Yeah.
what would you say to there's a lot of Catholic guys out there that want to grow either their business or their idea or get their message out there, but they're scared to post on social media. Like, what would you say to them?
I would say that you learn through experience and you just have to step out of your comfort zone. Like that's the only way you can grow on social media. Sometimes I look back at my old videos and I just cringe.
I can't watch them. I can't.
Yeah.
No. Right.
But it's a learning experience because through the bad reels I've made, um, I just learned what works.
Yes.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. You got to take like I just did a podcast thing on this about messy action. You have to just like stumble forward and just try it. And you're gonna
Yeah,
mess up. But by your 100th reel or your 200th, you're gonna be a lot better. And then people are gonna be like, wow, your content's good. And you're like, well, I had to be bad for a while. So you would say like, step out of your comfort zone. You're gonna be bad. Just put up with it. And then you'll be,
yeah, uh-huh.
yeah, that's fair.
A
Uh,
good analogy is like kind of working out. Like I remember when I first started going to the gym, not only was I not as strong, but I just had like really bad form.
sure.
But it's through like trying your best that you just improve.
Yeah. And that's a big thing I tell like my clients because I work with Catholic men and I just tell them like, they'll say something like, I don't know if I can meal prep all of this, or I don't know how to do this workout. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I need you to just go and then just stumble through it and then we'll talk
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
that's what it takes. Do you feel like there should be more Catholic influencers out there?
I feel like there should, honestly. That might be something that a lot of people disagree with me on.
Sure.
Um, but there's a lot of influencers out there that are just promoting sin
Yeah.
and degeneracy, and we have to be countercultural. And in order to do that, we need people with loud voices.
Right. I 100% agree. Like they're posting content. I say they as like the left. Like they're posting content that's reaching our 16-year-olds and 15-year-olds.
Hmm.
And like that's problematic because those are the ones on TikTok. They're getting the brainwashing. Like, we need to play that game too. If we just let them do their own thing, we're gonna have more like, gender surgeries and more like protests and stuff. Or we
Yeah.
can make content and influence them on our side as well.
Yeah. People are more influenced by their peers than they are by people in positions of authority. So the honest truth is that parents can try their best to influence their children in a good way, but they're going to be the most influenced by their friends, but also by people their own age on social media.
Mm.
So I try to make a lot of content that targets college students because I know, I mean, many college students when they get to college, it's like the first time in their life that they're not influenced by people above them.
Oh yeah. So you aim for them because their main source of influence is no longer around anymore, the primary one.
Hmm.
Yeah, I like that. Because if you see a lot of, let's say we just saw your Catholic content over and over, like the memes and the funny like trends and stuff, we'd probably become comfortable thinking and seeing Catholic content all the time. And we wouldn't feel so like nervous about it. or to like uncomfortable to voice our opinion.
Yeah, because it's a normal thing. Um, Living your faith should just be normal. It shouldn't be something you do on the side. It's what your life is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of guys, especially in college, like a public college, I bet a lot of Catholic
Mm.
guys, like a serious, like an Orthodox Catholic guy, they probably feel like they have to be two people. They have to be like their Catholic self on Sundays, and then they have to be like the pretend version of themselves in college. And that makes me really sad.
Yeah, that's why I'm really big on community building. I feel like people just need to be aware that you should make an effort to meet other Catholics in real life. Um, like, yeah, I post content on social media, but the most good I can do is working in whatever communities I'm involved with directly.
Yeah. How do you feel about befriending people that aren't Catholic? I'm big on being friends with, I was in a fraternity in college. I converted 3 years ago. So I was in a fraternity, all my friends that partied. I still want to be friends with them because what happened to me, I want to happen to them.
Mhm. Well, that's the way that the church spreads. It's through just being a witness to the faith. It's not going to be through arguing with people online.
Right. Right.
It's honestly just going to be through being friends with people that aren't Catholic, and they will see how you live, and they'll be like, "Why is this person so happy, even though they're not sinning?" Um, and I think just being an inspiration to others is the most effective way to convert them. So yeah,
Amen.
definitely have friends that aren't Catholic. You shouldn't just only have friends that are Catholic.
Right. I agree.
Hmm.
I think it's a little easier though to be friends with people that are just Catholic because there's such a rift in our values. I think it's hard for because I have a lot of clients. Like if you're going to the TLM and that's your whole and you go a lot and you're all your friends with people at like TLM and you do all the church ministry work and stuff, your whole life might be that. And it's hard for you to connect with like, you know, a crazy
Hmm.
leftist with blue hair. But even though we should try to find a way.
Yeah, and even though it might be hard to connect with someone that just has opposite values, I feel like everyone knows someone that they're kind of close with that have values that are just different. Because when we're in middle school and high school and we just make friends with people, we're not really concerned about their values then.
No.
Um, and then people kind of drift apart from each other. But I feel like when you know someone that you disagree with, because you know them, you're less hostile towards them and you kind of are more willing to hear them out.
I agree. So a big thing, and on that point, I think a big thing is not being fake. I don't think Catholics have this
Mm,
problem, but in the like corporate world, I feel like there's a lot of this problem where people are fake. They put on that
hmm.
facade. In fact, I was just listening to a Dominican friar. He is like a high school pastor, and he said like the biggest thing he notices in high schools is that high school students have such a radar for BS. Like they do not want a lack of
Mm,
authenticity. They want genuine, authentic conversation. Doing that is like vulnerable. And if you do that with
hmm.
people that don't think like you, you'll automatically make a connection. So I'm
Yeah.
big on guys just being like super open, maybe not being like, yeah, I'm a big believer. Life begins at concept, like maybe not right off the bat, but like being genuine and like chill and like understanding, great way to form a connection.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're all human.
Right.
And there are other things that can connect people other than the faith.
Totally. Like a funny
Hmm.
meme or like just like an experience in life.
Yeah. I will say, I do think that your values allow you to build a much deeper connection with people.
Yeah.
Um, but just that surface level connection is still good.
Yes. You know, I converted because a friend of like a coworker was, had all the opposite values of me, devout Catholic, but we started hanging out just because we shared the same job and we could
Mm,
complain about work. And then over time it became, me asking him questions and stuff and he was happy. So you're right. It doesn't have to be the faith. It can be anything. But what I try to do with my clients is encourage them to be like, okay, how much time are you spending with people that aren't Orthodox Catholic dudes, because we got to make an effort. If we're going to win the culture war, we got to make an effort.
Yeah.
And I think Catholic men spend a lot of time looking inward, like
Mm.
on Francis, on Vatican II, on, oh gosh, everything, right? TLM versus Novus Ordo. Like there's a lot of
Oh
things to
yeah.
look inward on, but like how much time are we spending really looking outward, like putting in the reps on the field?
Yeah. And it's difficult to do. I feel like some people are just not willing to do that. Um, and I understand it's just another cross to bear in a way,
Yep.
but it's a cross that I think just you have to carry.
Yeah. It's a tiny cross compared to what the apostles had to deal with, you know?
Oh yeah.
That's what I always try to tell myself. I'm like, white martyrdom, I think it's called, which is like social, just like the daily sufferings of like
Hmm.
judgment and whatnot as being a Catholic. Yeah, really not bad compared to red martyrdom, to being like murdered for the faith. We got to remember that.
Yeah. Also, not everyone that disagrees with us is super hostile. I actually think most aren't. It's just that the small minority that are just very vocal about it.
Yes, I think that's true. Just like I don't think most people agree with the left. I think a lot of people are kind of not sure. And then there's a small minority that's very vocal.
Yeah. I think most people tend to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, not everyone knows the answers enough to commit to a side,
Yeah.
which is okay. You don't need to know everything.
Right.
Because
Right.
that's another issue I think a lot of people have. They think they have to know everything,
Right.
and they get super passionate about things that don't really matter to them.
Yep. Totally. I think uh I think people use like an obsession over things to avoid like problems in their own life. So like
Hmm.
Russia, Ukraine, the least developed people I know, the people that have their lives together the least are like obsessing over Russia and Ukraine, right?
Hmm.
Whereas, you know, like a parish priest is not like calling people on the phone being like, "Did you see what the news said?" Like they're in their own, they're focusing on what they can control. And that's important. But yeah, I don't think we can know all things. We can't. I think humans spend a lot of time seeing what other people do and then growing with the flow because
Yeah.
we can't analyze to certainty with everything all the time. Like we don't have time for that.
Hmm.
One of
And
the Good.
especially when it comes to things like politics or just what's going on with the world. Like I liked how you brought like Russia and Ukraine as an example. That's not going to affect your family.
No.
You'd be much better worrying about how you can fix the relationships in your own life.
Amen. Yeah, I think it was Tolstoy who said everyone wants to change the world, nobody wants to change themselves.
Mm,
You got big enough problems in your own life.
yeah.
And yeah. But yeah, with that point about knowing all things, that's really true because, okay, like you and I probably haven't done all the homework on Catholic theology and what all the councils said, but at some point you just decide to follow the belief system.
Hmm.
But it becomes reasonable enough, and you're like, okay, I'll do what these other people say. So yeah, you're right. They get stuck in paralysis by analysis and they can't like make a full decision. Indecisiveness, I think, is a big problem in our culture.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, what are your goals then? Kind of to tie it back to you, like, what are your goals with your content and like kind of your vision?
So this might be a little ambitious, but
What we like?
I do, I do want to be a Catholic speaker.
Hell yeah.
If I could be someone that can talk at Seek and
Yes.
talk with Matt Frad, uh, that's that's honestly my dreams.
I love it. Dude,
Hmm.
so I'm gonna be vulnerable for a sec. I have the same dreams. I have Pines of Aquinas on my vision board up there.
Yeah.
Um, I just started messaging Catholic high schools, and that's how I got booked for high schools. That's what I would do. If you want to, if you feel like you're ready. I feel like you're ready.
Yeah, there's a lot more I could have done, especially with the position I'm in right now. I think it just goes back to stepping out of my comfort zone, and I honestly need to do a better job at that, low key.
That's cool though, man. I mean, yeah, we all do, but that's cool. So like a Sikh speaker. or like maybe Catholic high schools, podcasts, stuff like that.
Hmm.
That's awesome. Dude, I'm the same. We need more of us.
We do. There's not enough Catholics our age that are being really vocal and talking.
No, because they're scared. And it's understandable.
Hmm.
Like it is scary to say publicly, like you're Catholic, because that means you have a whole set of beliefs that are not accepted in the culture. And there's people that are,
Yeah.
dude, even in my gym, like I'm a big gym guy, and I go
Hmm.
to the gym, and obviously I'm like online, and everyone knows me and my beliefs. Even some people just
Uh-huh.
get weird. Like it's supposed to just be the gym, like we're gym bros, we just lift weights and drink protein powder, but people get weird because it's so like, does that mean he doesn't like gay marriage? It's like, yes, dude. Do not like it. So yeah, I get it. But dude, it's the cross. It's the cross our people bear in today's age.
Yeah.
It's our cross we bear. So well, do you think you have any like speaking engagements lined up coming up? Or not yet?
Not yet.
Nice.
Hmm.
It's on the books though. It's coming.
It is coming.
That's awesome.
Right now, my focus is going to be YouTube.
Yeah. I think
Hmm.
that's a great idea. That's kind of my focus too, because if you get a big following on YouTube, you're set.
Yeah, you are.
Do you think you're gonna do memes or do you think you'll do long form content?
I'll do long form content.
Cool. What is that going to entail?
That's going to entail just talking about the faith. I think skits can also be really cool.
Yep. I saw something you did and it was like a skit. It was a Catholic skit. You were younger. And it was like it might have been for the Newman Center, but it was a rap. Was it a rap?
Oh yeah.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, so you could do like, are you still going to stay in the comedy industry?
That's gonna be up to experimentation. I do
Yeah.
think that comedy is a really good way to just keep people's attention.
Agreed.
Because even if you agree with the content that you're watching, if it's not entertaining, you're just not going to finish it.
Yep. Our
Hmm.
monkey brains will scroll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So
maybe I
YouTube.
should
What?
maybe I should make Catholic brain rot.
No, don't fall victim to it. Yeah, okay. I see. So we do the long form stuff, kind of be that intro into becoming a speaker.
Hmm.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I think we have similar dreams, man. I would love to speak at Seek. I think that's kind of the epitome. Um, there's actually a group of us Catholic like business owners. I don't know if yours is through a business. Do you have like a merchandise stream too? No.
Nope.
But you have the following, which is like the hardest part. So there's a group of us Catholic business owners, like younger, I would say like under 30, that are thinking of putting on an event. Um, kind of like Seek, but more like for men, Catholic, self-develop, like what are we going to do in the culture? So speaking opportunity, that's what I'm saying. But yeah, there's more of us than you think, and we're starting to come together.
Well, if you
We need a speaker,
uh,
hit you up.
if you need a speaker, I would love to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Hmm.
Because we're all saying the same thing. Like find out what your skill is. Like you obviously have like a gift for being funny. It's like use the gifts God gave you to some way preach the gospel and use whatever means you can to do it.
Yeah, and I'm such a big supporter of just Catholic events, even if they're really small.
Yeah.
Because there are other conferences that aren't just like Seek. Um, like I remember seeing something. It's called like Catholic Palooza. It's like
Yeah.
a Catholic music festival. I know nothing about it,
It's
but I
cool.
just know it's a Catholic event, and it's really good to have those.
It is. Yeah. Well, because yeah, that means you're not alone. Like we're in this together. Catholic Palooza is a good idea. It was. It was just Catholic Music Festival.
Hmm.
I was actually gonna buy a seat. You know how like at events you can have vendors?
Yeah.
I think next year I'm gonna do like a seat at that and be a vendor. Because it's like it's good to do those. But yeah, man, I think that's your move, dude. I see it. You're a good speaker.
Thank you.
Yeah. It'd be like you, Father Capo, Father Mike Schmitz, and then Manny comes out. It's like, what's up? What would you speak on? Just like your experience?
I would like to talk about the rosary. That's like my big thing is Mary and the rosary.
Very cool.
Hmm.
So use the humor to kind of build a platform and then speak like your true thoughts on theology.
Yeah.
I like that.
I also feel like it's kind of ironic. I feel like personal prayer is not talked about enough.
I agree.
Um, People focus a lot on theology, but the truth is, unless you're a bishop, you really don't need to know every line of canon law.
Nope,
You grow in holiness through prayer.
it's true. Yeah. I don't think I was ever taught like my knowledge on personal prayer pales in comparison to like stuff about Vatican II, which is
Yeah.
unnecessary. It doesn't matter. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think Jesus is going to be like, didn't you read Lumen Gentium? He's going to be like, how did you pray? Like, how did you love me?
Yeah. I remember reading a Wikipedia page of this bishop that became a sedevacantist after Vatican II. And I
Oh,
was just and it was just like honestly really interesting because he just consecrated like bishops left and right, and then all these like different branches formed. But I'm like, why do I need to know this? I should just be praying right now.
facts. Yep.
Hmm.
Because I think it's easy. It's fun. It's fun to learn about the faith. It really is because we know it. And it's like a world in and of itself. Like there's drama, like Vatican II's drama, and there's
Yeah.
like sedevacantism, and everything makes sense philosophically. You know, you can like, Aquinas is fascinating. But it to me, and I've said this, and a lot of people disagree with me, but I think a lot of Catholic men nowadays study theology as like an excuse to avoid like the
Mm.
real problems in their life. Like obviously you should know about the faith, but if you're like for me personally, when I hated my life the most, when I was like most out of shape, like didn't have a girlfriend, um, didn't know what I was doing, didn't have any money, I would like study obscure theological things the most.
Hmm.
So it's like, well, why don't I learn about this Dominican friar rather than figuring out why I don't make money or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So not saying it's bad. I mean, both can be true. It's like it's good to study the faith, but it can definitely become a crutch, I think.
Yeah. Do you know the YouTube channel Census Fidelium?
No.
So they post a bunch of homilies from these different priests, and one homily, the YouTube video title was "The Hardest Penance," and it was about how the most difficult penance for someone is just being patient with their spouse and being patient with the people in their lives. And a lot of people will turn to how can I fast in a more intense way? How can I um, do more intense penances? But they're not picking up the crosses that God has given them. They're trying to give themselves crosses.
I like that. Yeah, it's probably easier. It's probably easier to be like, I have to put a pebble in my shoe than it is to be like, all right, how do I help my wife?
Yeah.
Yeah. We take the easy route a lot.
Hmm.
Well, this is cool, man. I think maybe just like a final point to wrap up, like, um, if there was like one message you wanted to make about the rosary, because that seems to be the most important thing to you. And I don't want to have you like do an hour long spiel here. I know it's probably a lot, but is there like one thing you would want to convey to like anyone listening?
At every modern Marian apparition, she's all Mary has always said, "Just pray the Rosary," and the Rosary is just a way to reflect on the entire gospel, because all the mysteries of the Rosary is just a mini gospel, and it sounds really simple, but you can't have a skyscraper without a foundation. And I feel like the rosary is such a good foundation for all prayer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, I love that. What would you say to someone that said, I'll just pray to God. I don't need to pray the rosary?
There is an analogy that St. Louis de Montfort had that when you pray to God, you are presenting your prayer to Christ the King. But when you ask Mary to pray for you, then you're asking the Queen to take your prayer and put it on a gold platter to present it to the king. Because we are imperfect and our prayers are imperfect, but Mary is perfect. So she takes our imperfect prayers and perfects them for the Lord.
I love that. Yeah, that's good. And you said you can't build a skyscraper without a strong foundation. Are you saying the daily rosary prayers build the foundation of your spiritual life?
Yes. Um, Especially doing the 20 decades and breaking it up throughout the day. It made me realize that I shouldn't just wait until the end of the day to just do all my prayers at once. Even if I just pray for 30 seconds before I start a homework assignment, that's good to just invite the Lord into my life.
Sure. Yeah. 20 decades is awesome, man. I really admire you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Manny, I think we covered a lot here and it's super helpful. I can't wait to share this with everyone. But yeah, if you where do people find you?
My Instagram is Catholic.motivation.
Cool.
You
And
just have to give me a follow. And if you DM me, I answer all my DMs.
awesome.
Mhm.
And I'll drop your info in the show notes. But what about your YouTube channel? Is that going to be a Manny focused YouTube channel, or is that also going to be
That's
Catholic.motivation?
also going to be Catholic motivation.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, I'll
Mhm.
drop them in the show notes. And yeah, man, I'm glad you came on. I love your content. I just wanted to hear your story. So thank you so much, man.
Thank you. I
Yeah, of course.
enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks. Cool. Well, I
Mhm.
will talk to you later, man. Have a great day. God bless.
You too. God bless.